In today's video, we'll be taking a look at another comic pack, and this one is the first Infinities comic pack that I'm featuring on the channel. If you don't know anything about the Infinities line, it's basically the what-if scenario for Star Wars. Probably one of the most noted stories in that line is what if Leia and Luke were switched at birth, where Luke went to Alderaan, and then Leia went to Tatooine and became a Jedi under Obi-Wan, and the story follows through from there. And in this particular scenario here, it's basically what if Darth Vader ended up living at the end of Return of the Jedi, and then he became a Jedi again, basically. And I guess having all-white armor signifies that he's more righteous, more honorable at this point. So it's an interesting pack. We did get several Infinities packs in the comic line at the time. There's also one that has a Jedi Leia and Darth Vader as he appears as a ghost, basically, in the Dagobah cave. Slightly different look to that. I think it's kind of like a combination of Sebastian Shaw and with hair, basically. It's a very interesting look for Vader. I don't have that pack. I would like to get that at some point. I have eyed the Leia every now and then because I wanted to use her as like an expanded universe Leia during the Legacy of the Force book series when she is a Jedi. But who knows, I might get that pack brand new at some point. I know it's not too expensive. And neither is this one. So I actually got this pack by accident. I never intended on getting it. When I got General Vader in the Storm Commando, which I have reviewed on the channel, I actually got that, or I got this pack as part of a lot with that. And I think I only paid like $80 between the two sets, and I was like, okay, that's a pretty fair deal, and I don't have this Infinities pack, so I'll go ahead and get it. After having it in hand, it's a pretty good set. It's not the best comic pack in the world, but it's good for what it is. This Leia, at the time it was released, may have been one of the best Leias that we ever got. If it looks a little familiar to you, it might very well be, because this is the same Leia tooling that was used for the TVC Indoor Leia that was released a couple years ago. I think the only real differences about it are the poncho, the head, and maybe the hands, or few minor differences here and there, but the base tooling is the exact same. The legs, the torso, I think the arms even, along the same lines. And I think the Vader here, I'm pretty sure this Vader is just a reuse from some other Vader along the line. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. I don't have that one, but I'm pretty sure this is not an all newly tooled Vader. Maybe it was during the Saga days back in 2002 or somewhere around those lines. Maybe even in the 30th anniversary line he was released here and there. But it's an alright Vader for what it is. As you can see, mine's a little bit on the yellower side, or a little bit more on the yellowed side. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that. Yeah, this weapon here that Leia has, she doesn't hold too well. Let's see here. So without saying anything further, we'll just go ahead and dive into the comic book here. So this takes place at the very end of Return of the Jedi, or what would be Return of the Jedi. It's Luke and Leia. Luke is featured a lot more in this comic book compared to Leia, so it's interesting that they went with Leia for the set instead of Luke. Got Vader there, after he gets his arm cut off, it looks like. So we're at the Battle of Endor on here. It's like a dialogue with Wedge Antilles and maybe Lando. And down here on the forest moon of Endor. So Leia is with Vader in this case, and Palpatine is ordering Vader to kill Leia. And it looks like Luke might be with them too, so they must have gone together. I haven't read all the Infinities comics. The ones I have read are pretty interesting, I think. I always thought that'd be an interesting story for Disney to take on, as well as an Infinity storyline of what if the sequel trilogy never happened, for example. So Leia prevents Vader slaying of Leia. Or Luke prevents Vader slaying of Leia, yeah. And we're down here with the Rebel Commandos. Inside the bunker here, it looks like. Some Ewoks ambushing some stormtroopers. The natives are attacking. Back in the space here with Lando and Chewbacca. Oh, yeah, it looks like Han Solo's with them. Must have been blinded. Or maybe he's still recovering from the carbonite. So Luke and Vader duel it out again. And I think in this scenario, Leia is a Jedi, so she gets in on it as well. Can you do it, Father? Can you kill both of your children? Yeah, Han is blinded here. He still takes on the turret. Oh, looks like we got Wedge here. More of a duel. Yeah. It's interesting. Is that supposed to be Obi-Wan or Palpatine? Kind of like, yeah, don't worry about it. And so Vader, even in the Infinities comics, does not have the heart to kill, or to oust his children, I should say. Allegedly, that's one of the key words you're not supposed to say on YouTube. I think that applies more for the monetized people, though. So Palpatine must have escaped here. And it looks like they're about to escort Vader out. Yeah, it looks like they... Yeah, Vader had his arm chopped off there. So instead, they both take Vader back to the shuttle, or back to the Falcon, actually. Vader, are you sure about this? Who's that on board with you? Only Han knew. Please don't tell me that's not who I think it is. That's a very Han Solo thing to say. Thank you for saving me. It says thank you for bringing me back. And escape before the Death Star blows up. Oh, that's a pretty interesting look for Mon Mothma there. So it looks like the Battle of Endor in this case was a draw. And it turns out I'm still a pretty good shot. So Han must have permanently lost his vision. Then we have yours truly, or you know who. We have you know who, the white Darth Vader armor. All of us together, Father. The Emperor doesn't stand a chance. No chance at all. It's a pretty interesting storyline. And here's some of the other comic packs advertised. I do have this Mara Jade. I do not have that Luke. I have two of this Mara Jade, actually. And there's the other Infinities pack I was mentioning. I do plan to get that at some point. And Ashrod, I still need to get that pack. I really miss the comic pack lines, though. I think these were some of the best action figures Hasbro ever made in general. Some more advertising. And back here we have some advertising for the 30th anniversary line, which when I looked this pack up, I was pretty sure it was in the 30th anniversary line, but it's always listed as the Legacy Collection. And when I forgot when I got this brand new if it was advertised in Legacy Collection packaging or not. But it's interesting, if that ends up being the case, why would they advertise 30th anniversary on here? I do recall that torture rack with Han Solo coin there. And I do have that Forlom. Particularly that Forlom with the coin. So pretty good comic. I think this is actually, for me personally, this is one of the more interesting ones. It's just interesting reading about what-if scenarios for Star Wars. Now for the figures. And we'll start with Vader here. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he's just a repainted Vader. I don't think this is all new tooling. Interesting look for him. To date, I think this is the only white Darth Vader figure that we got in 3 3/4 scale. We did get the Black Series one recently, which I don't have that one. I wouldn't mind owning that one, but I don't really want to spend $30 for it, especially since it's just a repainted Darth Vader, and there's really nothing unique about it other than being in white. But the helmet, I think that looks pretty good. I think that's one of the better Vader helmets. The proportions look pretty good. See, he has blue eyes in this case, or blue lenses. And the respirator is about the same. And like I mentioned, he is pretty yellowed in the torso here. Can't do much about it. It was like that when I bought it. Samples I have seen where it is totally white still and no yellowing. It does look pretty good. And a little bit in the hinge at the shoulder there as well is slightly yellowed or more discolored from the rest. For his control panel there, it's mostly blues and greens. A little bit of red in there. Slightly different color variations compared to what we normally see with Vader. And his cape here, it's not too bad of material. Mine's getting a little bit frayed. This sat in a package for probably 10 years, 10, 11 years, so it's not in the best of shape. And when I got it, I'm pretty sure it was all bunched up. As you can see, it still has some grooves in it from when it was probably pinched down in the plastic bubble. So for his articulation, he does have a ball joint at the head actually, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of hard to articulate that, but you can see the joint right there. Yeah, so you can get Vader looking up pretty much all the way up, and you might be able to have him look down a little bit if you work with it. Hinge at the shoulder, really good hinge at the shoulder. Some of the best arm articulation I've ever seen. Almost go all the way up. It does have swivel elbows, which is not too bad for this figure. He does have swivel gauntlets, I will say. Not so much wrists. Not exactly forearms either. Swivel waist, and swivel hips, and hinge knees, and no ankle articulation. So pretty good articulation for this guy. For accessories, he just has his one standard red lightsaber here. And I still have the elastic band around it, which, as you can see, it has seen better days, and it's even bleached in red, which I'm not sure how that happened. It was like it when I bought it. I'm sure at some point here pretty soon it will be breaking apart, and perhaps I'll try and hopefully that lightsaber is not discolored in any way, and maybe I can work at that a little bit. Someday I would like to try and de-yellow some of these action figures. This is one I wouldn't mind trying to work with or experimenting upon. So that's Vader. And then for Leia here in her oversized blaster rifle. So like I said, this is basically the same exact Leia that we got in the vintage collection with the indoor Leia. It's interesting that Hasbro completely reused most of the parts from that, or from this figure, considering at this point it's like what, almost 15 years old at this point. But I think up until that indoor Leia came out, this was one of the best indoor Leias, and I would argue this may have been one of the best Leias in general. The head sculpt is really good. The paint looks really good. Usually when if most people have a Leia in their collection, a lot of times they want a more battle-oriented Leia, and this is a great candidate for that. Slave Leia and even New Hope Leia to an extent, and you know, outfits like that, those are more novelty things. Those aren't something where I only want one Leia for my collection, and most people aren't going to go with Slave Leia or a New Hope Leia in some cases. They want a Leia that's more action-oriented, more battle-oriented, you know. Something that's going to fit in with the rest of the Rebels. And I think this is a great candidate for that. She does have some headgear around there, or an earpiece, that is. The hair sculpt looks really good. See, she has her hair done up in a very specific way, where it's braided up. And they even painted a little bit of hair on her side there. So the head sculpt's really good. I really have no complaints about this. I think it looks like Leia, and for the time it was, this was about as good as it was going to get. Poncho here, obviously it's a lot different from the TVC Leia. It's not so much camo, it's just a solid dark green or forest green. But it looks pretty good. I really like it. She does have the belt here with the holster and the pistol. And I'm pretty sure that's the same exact pistol that came with the TVC Leia. And she has a pouch there, and a pouch back here, which I'm pretty sure this belt is removable. Never actually taken it off, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, it actually goes through her poncho here. And here she is without it. So it looks pretty good. And pretty much just solid green pants. Or greenish pants with a yellow stripe on it. Black boots, which are glossy. Pretty good proportions as well. I would say the height is pretty accurate for Leia. So for articulation, she does have a ball joint at the head, and hinged shoulders and elbows. No swivel wrists of any sorts, at least for that arm. And same with this one. So part of the reason why she can't hold her blaster very well either is because that's about the only way you can really get her to hold it is like that. Swivel waist, and then swivel hips, and then hinge knees, and no articulation in the ankles, I think. No, she does have ankle articulation. In terms of weapons and accessories, so the poncho, the belt, the blaster, which we just showed. I suppose you could put that in her hand there, and she does have a very wide grip, so she doesn't hold that too well. You could get a decent pose, I suppose. And the oversized blaster, which I rarely have Leia displayed with it, or if I do, I have her basically hold it like a parade rest position for the rifle. Something like that. But it does have a little bit of detailing on it. Some reds and some gold colors. The rest of it's blue. It's bent a little bit. It was probably packaged like that. And on her poncho here, she does have a hood. She doesn't, it's stitched to, or the back of the hood is stitched to the poncho, so you can't really get her to put it over her head too well. It's about the best you can do, really. Can be a little bit to finesse that poncho and the belt back together. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about this set. So would I recommend this comic pack for your collection? It's not an essential set. It's good for what it is, and of course there's so many Leias out there to choose from, and I do think this is one of the best ones that Hasbro made, even to this date. So if you really want it, I would say you're making a good decision with getting this Leia, and if you only had one for your collection, I think this one suffice. The Infinity's Vader, of course there's so many Vaders out there to choose from, but this is the only one I'm aware of in 3 3/4 inch scale. That's in all white. It's more of a novelty item. It's not, obviously if people are going to pick a Darth Vader action figure, they're going to go with his traditional look over this one. But if you're a fan of Vader and you want all the Vaders, it's a pretty good Vader for what it is, and it gives them a unique look. So it really just comes down to your personal preference. It's a great set, but it's not essential for your collection. That's the best way I could put it. It's not one that I would have probably picked up on my own unless I got it in the lot like I did. Maybe at some point I would have if I've ran out of, or at some point I would like to collect all the comic packs, but this probably would have been one of the last ones I would try and get. It's not too expensive as far as I'm aware of. Maybe in the $50 range, something like that. So not the worst. So just keep an eye out if you really want one. You might see one for a good price at some point. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate your support. And check out some of the links in the description if you have not done so already. As always, thanks for watching.